are these people?
Here you go. Look at that. Look at that. It's right there. Enjoy.
Who are these people?
What's up, everybody? Is another episode of Iron and News with me, Reef, and my co-host, Collin Radix-Carter, aka Care Bear. Care Bear, how are you?
Okay. I'm doing great because we have our good friend of the show, our man James Fauntleroy, otherwise known as JB from RBN. Pleasure to have you once again, JB.
It's good to be here. Good to see you guys. Thanks.
And you brought a gift of sorts. You wrote a Substack. You wrote a baby. Funny enough, I have that vinyl at that Rick James vinyl.
So. I'm just waiting for Collin to own every vinyl. He's gonna have a whole wall of it here soon.
If I have a big enough house, then yes, I will.
Yeah.
But yeah, you wrote a Substack article, which we think is amazing. And as we were saying to you before we went live, I think more of us need to do that in terms of broadening our reach, in terms of, not just visually, but also in written form. So we wanted to give you, I know I saw you posted it on Twitter, so I wanted to kind of bring you on to talk a little bit more about it. But actually, can you explain to us what brought you or what led you to write this article?
Nazis.
I mean, yeah.
So, yeah. The thing is that as a marginalized people, I think it's important that we peer through the weeds of corporate media and focus on what our government is doing and how it affects us materially. A lot of times we will look at the foreign policy of the United States and we'll think, oh, well, they're doing this for our benefit. When in reality, when you look at it from more of the squirrel's eye view, versus the bird's eye view, it becomes very apparent that they are not on your side when it comes to our material benefit. So I felt that this to be necessary to address, our community as Black people and say, look, things aren't what they seem. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that pushed me to this decision to write this article was, the applauding of a Waffen-SS soldier, a Nazi soldier in Canadian Parliament. And I did a stream on this last week on my channel talking about this and how these are the same people that want to rid us off the earth. And right. Black people need to realize that our government is too soft and lackadaisical when it comes to Nazis, and they've had a history of doing this.
Right. Yeah, we've definitely talked about this on our show before. And yeah, so I definitely really appreciate you, I think, bringing this out to light, kind of just as a way for us in the Black community. Well, I would argue we've been new, others haven't. Like in so many ways, like I think people who are non-Black are kind of brand new to this idea. But we've been, not necessarily with Nazis, but just white supremacy in general is something that we've dealt with in the West for centuries. So
and you ain't Black.
So it's like, so it is. When I say for us, we are seasoned, I would say, in understanding and knowing the reality of white supremacy in the West, even if we may not necessarily are fully immersed in it. We know it. We innately feel it, in terms of our society, in our culture. But I do want to read, it's short, but I do want to read your article, and then you can definitely comment. And I have a couple of other questions for you.
Well,
So,
looks like we got ourselves a reader.
So the title, you titled this, whoops.
I got it.
Why?
Sorry.
Why Black people should pay attention to the proxy war in Ukraine. There's a sympathetic undercurrent for Nazis and fascism that should give Black people pause in Western nations. The time to wake up is now. So you continue. Black people should be paying key attention to what's happening in the developments in the proxy war the US is waging against Russia by means of Ukraine right now. As many of us in independent media have been saying, this war of attrition that the US is funding for the sole purpose of gaining access to Russian resources is revealing how nefarious the corporate government is and shows us how dire of a need we have to change the system from the ground up. Make no mistake, the US government is funding Nazis, and they know it. Fascism is not new to us as a group in this nation. We have seen the generational damage it has done to us, as well as our indigenous siblings, in the form of genocide. These forces were always here since they landed on Plymouth Rock, but now they've been emboldened since their time of the Third Reich in Germany. Tensions are rising, and I fear a complacency from our brethren due to US propaganda having such a massive chokehold on the minds of many Black folks here. The recent display of praise and adulation for an SS Nazi officer in Canada as of recent shows that we cannot and must not be lax in our vigilance in pushing for liberation and freedom. Governments like Canada, US, UK, India, Italy, France, and Germany have shown us that fascism is still alive and well and will place us back into the chattel state of our ancestors soon enough. So I actually want to stop here and want to ask you, like, in your opinion, why do you feel people are kind of more in tune to fascism now compared to when we've been making this charge for centuries and people didn't bat an eye? Like, what, like, it's almost kind of like, and we see in the independent media, like, we can't vote for Trump because he's fascist, you know, like, and it's like, well, Biden is fascist, Obama was fascist, like, every president that we've had in our history is fascist. So, and they've done nothing to kind of support us as Black people, but now you're concerned about it. So I'm just kind of, in your opinion, why you think there's such a huge revelation for people who are non-Black to kind of think about, oh, we need, this is something that we need to worry about or be concerned about.
We're canaries in the coal mine. We've always been. Every single time something horrible has happened, the prelude to those horrible things happening to the American people have been started with Black people.
Right.
With the exception of indigenous people. So you think about chattel slavery. Chattel slavery was used, on us in order to build up the country so that they could rake in the profits through forced and free labor. They are now pushing towards that, not just with us once again, but they're also trying to do it with white people. Think about the mass incarceration that was really geared towards us. The 13th Amendment did not end slavery for us completely. In fact, it made it still operational with the conviction or even just an accusation of a crime if you're put into prison and not even convicted. But they want you to be, to be able to be enslaved within the prison industrial complex so that you will continuously work for companies like McDonald's, Wendy's, American Airlines, and Victoria's Secret.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that part as well. And now it's not just Black people, but it's also about 60% of white people that are in prison now that are also now involved in chattel slavery.
Right.
You see how the police have systematically and systemically oppressed us since their inception into this country. And now you see how it's affecting poor white people on a systemic level. You see how we were persecuted against through various means of medical torture. You had the Tuskegee experiments, things like that. And so now you see what they're doing against
MK
white
Ultra,
people.
specifically.
Yeah, MK Ultra.
Yeah.
How they're doing against these things against white people as well now. And so now it's not just no longer Black people who are being discriminated against medically, for the ends of corporations and big pharma. So Black people have been the canaries in the coal mines for centuries, and we have been sounding alarm. And it's like I've said before.
Oh, you mean how like Black people are going to get the COVID vaccine before everyone else? Isn't that a thing? I swear, I think that was a thing. I remember correctly.
I mean,
like, no.
I mean,
I'd be like, I don't know about that.
Well, as far as the jab is concerned, I mean, Black people who were disproportionately affected during the pandemic.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that not only affected Black people, but it also affected a lot of poor white people too.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've always said was to a lot of people, and particularly a lot of the PMC white people, they'll say, oh my God, fascism is here, where for Black people, fascism is a Tuesday.
Right. It's always been, right. Like this has been a class issue for like decades and decades and decades now. And if you're at the bottom of the totem pole, which all of us are now, so it's kind of like you continue in this article along these lines of like, make no mistake that these politicians are tools of the corporate dictators that wish to keep us down as peoples and workers, right? But we aren't the only targets of the new wave of fascism on the rise. Jewish people, LGBTQ+, neurodivergent, hello, thank you, disabled people, and many poor whites are all set to be subject to further suppression and socioeconomic degradation by the corporate dictators. Fascism is the vehicle they will use to own us and have us under subjugation. They will push us to think that all we Black people need is Black capitalism and we will be okay. The late great chairman of the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party, Fred Hampton, said the contrary. We say we're not going to fight capitalism with Black capitalism, but we're going to fight it with socialism. They will point it to the whitewash history of Martin Luther King Jr. and tell us that we need not fight for the battle is won, which is a lie. If the battle was won, Dr. King would still be alive. I wanted to bring that chairman of the BPP himself, this guy, who we all remember a channel name that RBN once had, which I still appreciate, but we'll let Fred tell us.
What makes them mad about it is that they had Black people and white poor people and red poor people and Puerto Rican poor people and Latin American Puerto Rican people of poor people of all descents. They had them caught up in movements based on racism when the Black Panther Party stood up and said that we don't care what anybody says. We don't think you fight fire with fire best. We think you fight fire with water best. We're going to fight racism, not with racism, but we're going to fight with solidarity. We said we're not going to fight capitalism with Black capitalism, but we're going to fight it with socialism. We stood up and said we're not going to fight reactionary pigs and reactionary state's attorneys like this and reactionary state's attorneys like Hanrahan with any other reactions on our part. We're going to fight their reactions where all of us people are getting together and have an international proletarian revolution. Right on. Right on. And that's saying all power to the people. Right on. That's saying that no matter what color you are, there's only two classes. And that's saying there's a class over here and there's a class over there. And the reason that this class over here has never did anything to get this class off its back, because this is lower, this is upper, this is the oppressed, this is the oppressor, this is the exploited, this is the exploiter. And these people in this class have divided themselves. They say, I'm Black and I hate white people. I'm white and I hate Black people. I'm Latin American and I hate hillbillies. I'm hillbilly and I hate Indians. So we fighting amongst each other. And you've heard the testimony of pigs here. You got pigs of all colors, you know that. You got pigs that are white, you got pigs that are Black, you even got pigs that are Black and white. Propagating the same type of madness that this buffoon Hanrahan would be propagating if he were here himself. And why? Because they want to keep you to believing that I'm your enemy, and that everybody else that's black and that wears a lot of hair on his head and hair on his face, they want to keep you thinking that he's your enemy. Why? Because if ever you would disregard him and overlook him just for a minute and throw away that question of racism and start into dealing with a little logic, then there would be no one else you could attack other than Hanrahan, other than Daley, and other than Tricky Dicky Nixon. If you make the right decision, then the oppressed people of the world can get complete satisfaction. I know you return a verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
I mean, still right.
Yeah.
You know, more people need to go watch that again if they haven't already. You know, but
he was assassinated at the age of 21. So that was
strange how that works. Anyway, Care Bear, anything?
Yeah. I got not what's to say.
I know, right?
I mean, JB, I think you're right. I think I'm just kind of annoyed of the fact that, like, as you said, we've been sending out this warning for centuries. And now I just feel like with the age of Trump and MAGA, like the people, especially those, if you're non-Black and in the PMC class, you care more about fascism now. It's like, oh, we have to, but it's kind of like the false sense of, oh, we have to vote for Biden or Democrats because Trump is way is worse. Like even if they admit that Biden is bad, but oh, Trump is way worse, you know. But for us, it's kind of like
we know that that's not the power. The power isn't some elected official. It's like Fred Hampton was saying there. Yeah, they're gonna have you fight with Tricky Nixon and whatever. It's not just and it speaks to it's less a conspiracy than they make it out to be. It's not just the man keeping us down. It's corporate profit, as it always is, whether that's in war or medicine or in whatever industry is there. It's going to continue to have their boot on our neck. That's the boot. You're not going to vote out the Rothschilds and Schwab and all those cats. That's not happening. You're going to have to figure something else out anyway. You know, corporate dictators, if you will.
Yep.
You know, so
that's what. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so these same corporate dictators are now clawing back all the concessions made during the Roosevelt administration, and more since now they have more sympathetic lapdogs in the seats of government. This battle is intensifying on a global scale since the recent anti-imperialist coups against France in Sahel nations like Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. Fascist corporate dictators are now seeing the global majority rise up and say a resounding no to their imperialistic and colonial rule. This frightens
What?
Well, shout out to France for getting the boot.
I know, right?
For now, but I'm like, even with that, like what?
Yes, but
like,
what did we cover the other day? What are they having Kenya do
80.
right now? What are they having Kenya do? Have you heard this, JB? You might have missed this one. They're sending Kenyan police to Haiti.
Right.
Like in response. Yeah, I know, dude. It's the worst. Like the US is sending money and aid to Kenya so that they could be our police in Haiti. It's fantastic.
Right.
It's a great deal.
Right.
You know, people known to have like humanitarian problems.
But you know what? Now that you're saying this, Reef, like I think JB was not necessarily, but I feel primarily writing for Black Americans.
Mm-hmm.
But really, this message is for every Black person globally.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and we've talked about this all the time, and I think especially what's happening in Africa, like the elites in Africa are basically sellouts in terms of, you know, they want to be kind of acquired by the West. They want to have they essentially want the West riches at the expense of their people who they're willing to have be poor.
Well, that's because we got a few bases right near their house, I imagine.
Right. Right. So, so really it's just the idea of solidarity among ourselves that on a global scale that I don't think is often talked about enough. And it's just kind of reminding me of the idea of this is why, and I know you promote this a lot, JB, but I think this is why I think as Black people, we need to do better. I think be better in terms of these issues among each other, in terms of how we're going to promote these issues in a way that we're able to, especially for non-Black people, to be allies. Well, what are we demanding? And what are we asking our allies to assist us with? Because half the time we can't even articulate that our damn selves because we're fighting among ourselves. But then
unity doesn't represent what you're against. It represents what you are for.
Someone said that.
But it's the idea of we're fighting among ourselves, I think, in terms of, in America, but everywhere else, in the global South, we're not having those conversations with our African cousins or our Latino cousins who are of the diaspora as well. So, so I think it's just the idea of really thinking in terms of what does true solidarity mean for us in terms of the diaspora of, this imperialistic mindset that many of us who are Black do have that we need to fight against, because half the time it's not even just it's mostly among each other. I find that
wasn't that long ago. Speaking of that diaspora, Mexican Independence Day was not too long ago, a couple of weeks, I think. Big deal in that regard. That was literally them getting independence from colonialism,
Right.
That's a big deal. But yeah.
In what you were saying, Collin, regarding the diaspora actually coming together, there is subsets of divisions that happen within the diaspora that actually really need to be talked about, as well as we need to clear the air. There's divisions within the diaspora regarding gender, LGBTQ issues,
right,
disabilities, things like that. So there needs to be a coming together, because people need to realize, the gay Black people in the diaspora are not your enemy, or the trans people who are in the diaspora are not your enemy. So why are we fighting against each other? The women and the men need not be divided among gender lines because of these gender wars that happen in the diaspora, especially in the African American community, because ultimately that is just a tool of the oppressor to keep us divided so that we don't fight for our own liberation. So in reality, what's really going on is that we are becoming tools of the oppressor. And let me just say this, because there's a lot of Black men, especially, that are now starting to look at people like Donald Trump as their savior, when in reality, it's like you went from one false white savior to another.
Right.
Because you're going from Biden now to Trump and saying that, well, we like Trump because of these little arbitrary things that he has done that you think that are great for Black people, just because he, stood in solidarity with somebody like Lil Wayne. Who gives a shit? Because the thing is that somebody like
crazy. It's crazy how they be doing that.
Yeah, because the thing is that Donald Trump is in the same club as those people. Biden is just a lackey of the people in that club, and Donald Trump is a buddy of those people in that club. So it really doesn't matter. And just like what, our ancestors who were revolutionary has said, people like Chairman Fred Hampton said that we will not fight capitalism with Black capitalism because it does us no good whatsoever. Right. And so they're going to continue to use this and say, well, all we need is black capitalism. And then they're going to say, well, look at what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did.
Look at my African American over here.
Black and white and Jew and Gentile. Like, no. This is not what it's about. Ultimately, this has to deal with the class war that we actually have to fight and win because they want to keep us divided so that they will continue to keep us at the bottom of the hierarchy. When in reality, we have to end and win this class war so that we are no longer have a social and socioeconomic hierarchy that keeps us down in the first place.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. I'm down for that. Anyway, you continue. This frightens them, I think, is where you stopped.
Yeah. In order to keep some semblance of control, they will try to squeeze their iron fists more on those of us within the borders of the imperial core. We must resist and tear the empire apart from the inside. Our awareness must be sharp in this respect. This is why I'm writing this article now, to make my people aware of the coming hammer to drop that the US government is going to attempt to strike us with.
Catch me outside, how about that?
Okay. These corporate dictators are now getting more bold and ready to make a totalitarian world order where we own nothing and they own everything, including us. We must awaken our senses of self-determination, sovereignty, freedom, and justice to fight and resist this pursuit of control. This is why independent media is so important, and I encourage you to support us in however ways you can. Our organizing via direct action and mutual aid will be a foundation, as well as political and media education literacy to combat these forces that want to force us to work without keeping our dignity and liberty. Black people, we need to remember and study our rich history of resistance and revolutionary struggle for liberation. We must emulate our ancestors who taught us to fight against a capitalist system that put chains on our wrists and ankles. We will save ourselves and make our world better collectively if we do this. We will succeed. We must succeed.
What's that quote about if you don't know your history, you are doomed to repeat it? Isn't that how it works?
Yeah,
pretty much.
And being, you know, an educator, that's something that I think we definitely lack. We lack the knowledge of our own history in terms of remembering the strategies that our ancestors laid out before us. And I think, and I've said this many times on the show, I think now we're trying to reinvent the wheel in terms of trying to create something new. And I'm kind of like, we don't necessarily have to do that. All we essentially, what we really should be doing is kind of remixing the strategies that our ancestors left for us before. They worked then, and it's still a lot of the same shit that we're still going through now.
I find it important you spoke to what independent media is supposed to be doing, and you mentioned two very important things: direct action, mutual aid, right? Like I don't see voting in there, so that's nice. We know that's not going to help necessarily. We got to fix that whole system before then. But you know, like that to me is an important part of what RBN is doing, what we do here. You know, like pushing that, especially that education and literacy. How many times have we? I think you literally have a listen to our ancestors video, correct, Collin?
Right. Right. But then even that, JB, I know you do readings on your channel too, in terms of having your audience learn. You know, I know you've read reading Shakur right now. You've read Michael Parenti before. You know, you're trying your best to engage, but give us. And it's one thing to be educated, but it's another thing to be educated in the means that is going to help us long term.
How about this guy? How about that guy? That guy we're doing. Someone gave me this, I think. I've not even cracked it open.
Well, it's 1,000 pages, so
hey, you know, like I got through Harry Potter once. I think I can manage. You know,
but I don't know. But I don't know, GB, and I just want to ask you because I know that's kind of why we do what we do in INN is like we want to try to educate people in issues that are not necessarily mainstream even in our space.
Mhm.
And
You know, please subscribe.
So please whatever.
Whatever.
But I want to ask you, like, what can we do, or what, in your opinion, what can we do to help? Because the things that I know you talk about and the things that we kind of talk about are not necessarily popular in the space. Like, people want the drama, the salaciousness, which to some end it's understandable. But on the other hand, we talk about revolution, we talk about direct action and making change. The things that I think we do or try to do to help promote people to do that are not necessarily, one, practically, the algorithm does not support that. But number two, I hate saying this, but our audience doesn't necessarily, well, if they know us, then fine, but the size of our audiences are not necessarily big compared to, you know, the trending stuff or the more salacious stuff that will kind of drive people. Like, in your opinion, what do you think we should be doing to kind of counter that, to kind of help people understand, like, we get why you're watching and listening to all this stuff, but what we're talking about, what we need to be doing is way more important, because this is going to drive any election, any politician stands on, oh, I'm going to do this for you. We got to be more prepared in terms of, you know, coming up with, no, this is what we need you to do, because this is how our communities are suffering, especially within the Black community. And here's what we are demanding that you do for us based on, you can fill in the blank here. Like, what do you say it's going to take for people to get there to actually, you know, move towards a movement in this space of learning versus sensationalism, I would say?
That's actually a really good question. Thank you very much for that. Well, I think one of the things that is important is to, you as an educator know that teaching somebody about something, you could either serve it two different ways. You can serve it in a way that is monotone, that is boring, that doesn't really invoke any type of emotional response and willingness to learn. Or you can flavor it up and make it sound entertaining while still being informative, so that when people actually come in and see what you're talking about, then it actually tastes good.
Right.
I'll put it like this. I can give you Doritos all day, baby. I can give you Doritos all day, but how is it really going to affect you nutritionally? It's not really going to affect you. Right. But if I give you some collard greens and I season it just right, if I give you some cornbread and then I give you some mac and cheese and then I put them ham hocks in there and all that, but if I make sure I season it just right, but I give you some meat and some veggies that will really benefit you,
right?
But then I don't just plop them on the plate. I actually give you a great presentation to go with it,
right?
Then maybe, just maybe, it will be appealing to people while still being educational at the same time.
Right.
Nice. And you, as an educator, you're teaching little kids, you have to keep their attention.
Mm-hmm.
You have to keep their attention all the time. We are just large children. That's
and I will admit, I don't have the patience for large children.
Me neither. Me neither. And I'm a large kid. I don't have patience for myself. Can you tell? But the thing is that it's like, I look at myself, I'm like, well, how would I hold my attention? Okay, let me do this so that I can hold my own attention. And there's times where I'll be editing. I'm sitting there watching myself. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. That's how I know I can hold my own attention. If I'm sitting there and if I'm doing what Dr. Devon Price talks about in Laziness Does Not Exist, I'm cyber loafing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah. Then I didn't do my job.
Right.
And so the thing is like, comes to being dynamic while talking about deep subjects, right? And being able to joke and laugh while talking about those deep subjects so that you're able to hold attention, but you're still able to educate the audience at the same time. And I think there are some people who have came and left in this independent space who will complain and say, well, they don't want to hear the deep topics. And yeah, that's true. Some people just don't want to hear it. But in the words of Bernie Mac, fuck them.
Uh-huh.
Go with the people.
I ain't scared of y'all motherfuckers. Sorry, go continue.
But I ain't scared of you motherfuckers.
Fuckers? That's the best bit of all time. I love that bit so much. Anyway.
But the point is that you take, the political education and then you add flavor to it. You add seasoning to it. Because some people, they just be boring as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd be like, and some of them be like, they have like 200-300 subscribers and they get like 2-3 people watching each stream and they don't switch things up. They stay monotone the whole time and they sound like Ben Stein. I'm like, yes. And then I'm like, will you step on a tack or something just to hide something? Like, God damn. Lord, that's the thing. And that's what I tell people. You got to have some personality in this space. If you ain't got no personality, you ain't going to listen to you.
Right. Yeah.
So the thing is like having the accuracy, having the education, the material analysis, or like they said in the beginning of March, half the battle. It is dialectical materialist analysis of what is going on. Basically saying if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going. And you put that along with, having some spice in there so to wake people up, then you're able to do that.
Why is it spicy?
I got it for everything. I'll be here all week.
What you been adding on this?
Bro, I just got stuff, man.
Got him.
Like I got everything, Like
I like that one. I like that one.
I got the inside the bind of Mitch McConnell. I got that, I got everything. Don't worry about it. I wanted to ask JB, where were you informed on this particular issue? That'd probably be a good thing to go down the list of, who educated you on this war in Ukraine situations?
Listen to different people regarding this. One of my favorite channels to listen to is The Left Lens with Danny Haifong.
Mm-hmm.
Very smart, very good analysis. Nick, my comrade from RBN, a very good wealth of information that came from him and helping to educate me on what's going on in Ukraine. And just one thing to say, and I know that, the article I was talking about, Black people need to be more aware of what's going on. One of the things that also helped me was seeing a Black person that was politically astute about foreign policy. You do not see that many Black people that are knowledgeable about foreign policy like they should be.
Right.
And so that also helped. People like Margaret Kimberly from Black Agenda Report, who is also brilliant. when it comes to her analysis, when it comes to things like this, I think is another really great resource. Richard Medhurst, who is going to be on my channel on Thursday.
Yeah.
He is also really, really good at that political analysis as well. So just a few people to mention.
Wake up, asshole.
That's Richie. Just making sure everyone's awake. Any others?
I'm trying to think because I don't want to blank on names and then start calling out names and then I forget other people. But as far as going over certain people in my head,
Nico. Nico's a great to add there too.
Nico is also really good. Yes.
Yeah.
B House is also a really good resource too to go to.
He's pretty great too.
Yeah, Fiorella Isabel. Yes, she is also a really great resource regarding what's going on in Ukraine, especially since she's moved to Moscow.
Yeah,
right.
She's in Iran right now, doing some crazy stuff there.
Tara Reid, can't forget about Tara Reid. Tara Reid has also been a very strong educational voice regarding this. Oh, and Wyatt Reed. Wyatt Reed, also from the Gray Zone, is really good too. Ben Norton, as well.
All those guys over at Gray Zone do great stuff on that.
Yeah. So that's why, you know, I try to listen to as many of those voices. The anti-imperialist voices are really the key, because if they're anti-imperialist, those are the ones that will give you the
Vanessa
real
Beeley, Alina Lip. I'm just going through the list in my head. Eva.
Yeah.
There's tons of good ones out there if you look. Some people have been even given awards. The Indie Media Award. I think RBN has one of those, if I'm not mistaken. You know.
Yeah.
So,
but I do think, I think just with the names that you mentioned, you know, I think it's one thing to kind of mention them, and like we definitely, you know, watch out for those guys too. But I think it's definitely, as you said, another thing to have a Black person who is knowledgeable on these, especially foreign policy issues too. And we need a lot more of them in the space. I mean, it's great to talk about domestic policy all day long, and I think that's fine and needed, but we definitely need people who are well-versed in foreign policy as well, especially how our tentacles are bridging the, like in the global South in particular, and how we can kind of understand like the reach of imperialism and colonialism has had, you know, which I think in a lot of ways has caused a lot of this rift intentionally.
Foreign policy is domestic policy, is foreign policy is domestic policy.
Right.
Like it's same
and like
extensions of.
Like I know people who live abroad who are more versed on American politics than we are here.
I mean, it's almost
because
like
they understand.
They got army bases
they understand,
right near their
like
house.
the thing, but they also understand that the issues that they're succumbed to more often than not have the roots here. So, so you know, as I hear all the time whenever I'm abroad, people love America for its culture, and even though I'm kind of questionable right now, but hate the politics. And so we have to make that understanding as to why our politics are so hated, and learn from that. And
that
start bridging those gaps.
To make me more astute when it comes to foreign policy was due to people like Margaret Kimberly, Nick Cruz from RBN, and I've also been encouraged by my comrade Sabby Sabs, because she's getting more deeper into foreign policy as well, and she encouraged me to do more of that too. So, you know, just, you know, as far as Black people is concerned, they are the ones that really encourage me to be more adept at foreign policy, and I am just a whole lot better for it. And also a special shout out to Danny Haifong too.
Yeah. I mean, that leads us into the last question we'll get into. Why do you think Russia's doing so well with the global south? You know, what's the historical context of that, you think? And China, for that matter.
Because imperialism is not the vehicle that they use in order to influence the world. How many military bases around the world do China and Russia have? I would beg to say there's less than 10 between the both of them.
Right.
Yeah.
That being said, then once you look at what China and Russia are doing, some people may criticize China for saying, well, they are, they're setting up debt traps. But at the same time, it's like, if they really are setting up debt traps, then why are they forgiving billions of dollars in debt for these African nations? Because that's exactly what they're doing, right? Putin just announced that he's forgiving, I think it's $23 billion in debt for African nations as well. So in reality, it's more of a more of a mutually beneficial relationship between those two countries. Now, I had Omali Yeshitela on last week, and he was talking about how, yes, it is a beneficial relationship with these nations, but make no mistake that these African countries need to continuously look out for themselves and their self-determination,
exactly,
so that they are doing for themselves rather than trying to please any other superpower. They have to look out for themselves first, right? Which I fully agree with.
Yeah.
But what Russia and China are getting right is that they are influencing through honey versus what the United States and many other imperialist powers have done with vinegar. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they're basically saying, okay, so I'm coming into the store and I'm going to give you money for what you have, and then you're going to give me in exchange for goods. Whereas the United States, France, and the UK come in, busting through the door. Give me everything you got and make it quick and give me all the money in the register. That's basically what the United States and the Imperial Corps do. So one is going to rob your ass, while the other one's coming in with money in their hand and saying, all right, I'd like to buy what you have in the back. See what I mean? So that's the difference. So one is basically taking your shit with the barrel of a gun. The other one is buying your shit with the money in their hand. Which one are you going to go with? I'm going to go with the one that got money in their hand, and they're like, yeah, I would just like to buy your wares, sir. So that's basically the difference. This is why there's more of a friendly relationship with Russia and China with these African countries than there is with the United States and the rest of the Imperial West.
Yeah.
This is what they're getting right.
Right.
Because it's more of a soft power versus a hard power.
Right. Yeah.
So the United States doesn't know how to but beat people in submission. The United States is basically an abusive boyfriend that knows nothing what to do except for to beat people to get it to love it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I've mentioned on the show, having been in Africa, and you know this, JB, like, it's a complicated relationship with China and Africa. Like, there's certain things within China that I don't particularly agree with. That's what it says on
their Facebook. It's complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Gotcha.
It's like, I'm very mixed on that relationship. I definitely see some benefits, but I also see, especially being on ground and speaking to Africans there, how those in its own self can be exploited. So that I do think those issues need to be talked about. But generally speaking, in terms of the global relationship, I do understand, compared to the West, absolutely. Like, Russia and China, as you say, are dealing with them more diplomatically for the most part.
Right.
compared to the West that just
if it's resource
fakes out.
wars we're going to have, I think the easier route is making sure people like you and want to give you the resources, as opposed to like, look, it's still somewhat exploitative of the global South. I think that's agreed, you know, but it's like, if they're going to be exploited, might as well get paid for it, you know?
Right.
Like, you see in BRICS that they're making sure that these powers have equal rights among like global economic powers. Now there's some issues there too, especially with India, you know, still having these connections to the West. We've seen how that played out with recently, right? With the whole Azerbaijan thing, I think. I think that's what it was. And Brazil too. Yeah. Brazil still got connections here. You know, same thing.
Even
so
with
it's
BRICS,
like,
even with BRICS, I'm kind of like it's good, but I'm kind of like
if you're gonna model it after the World Bank, that's not always the best thing to model stuff off of. But granted, you're doing it far better. Like that's the thing is like, even me saying that, I know it's a better deal. So
but as you said, at the end of the day, I would love to be alive if Africa, any nation in Africa is like, look, what you want? Like we have our own industry, we have our own infrastructure. Like if you want it, you can come for us to get it, versus the other way around of having like larger countries have to come in and support them. Like I would love for it to be that Africa can be this, well, traditionally it is, you know, given the resources. It's just a matter of using it in a way that is a lot more equitable and fair, and at the same time that they're able to see the benefit of their own fruits being risen out from the continent, and then they're able to be in the position of autonomy and control in light of the global market. That's what I would love to see ultimately. But I think the key in that is, as you said, JB, for this article, and again, once again, thank you for writing it and sharing it with the space. We need to be better educated, and we need to be a lot more aware, especially as Black people, of the reality of the indication of what these wars mean. Well, we're hearing about Ukraine. I doubt any Black people here know what's happening in West Africa right now. And can you imagine if there was more awareness, how we would be challenged to make those kinds of demands from our politicians, you know, and essentially giving them the boot, you know, like these are the things that we need to be more aware of, so that it's not seen as, it's like, those poor
what's happening in West Africans. There's been massacres recently, wholesale.
Those instances should be giving us like inspiration.
That can happen here.
We should be able to do this here.
Yeah,
we have done it here. So
thoughts,
just
JB?
giving us that.
Yeah. I say, you know, be less of a Jay-Z and more of a Thomas Sinclair.
Oh,
right?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh God.
You know, it's just like, you know, because I mean, if Black people knew what, you know, Ibrahim Traore, you know, did in Burkina Faso, that was gangster, right? That was real gangster move, right?
What was that? What was the one recently? Kill the boy. I love that. That was great. Do that again, please.
So, but anyway, JB, appreciate you being on. Where can people find you?
Sure, you guys can find me at JB Faunt on Twitter. You can find me at JB Faunt on TikTok and Instagram. You can also find me on, you know, at JB Faunt on my YouTube channel. So if you guys would like to, you guys can find me there. Also find me on the Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can find me there. Also on YouTube, Rockfin, and Rumble. You can find me on my channel, JB Faunt on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, and Twitch. So yeah, you can find me at those, and you can also find me at JB Font on Substack. Where my article
Nice.
was
Yeah.
written.
Yep.
Almost forgot. I had a blonde moment. Sorry. So,
We'll make sure all your links in the
imagine
description
people
too.
on here.
For those
Yeah,
for those
so-
lazy people that don't exist, it's down there.
Right.
You know.
Um,
So anything else, Colin? Oh,
no,
I know.
I think
Hold on. I'll bring it back. I have it. Don't worry. I got it. No, not. It was like way down here. There it is. Look at that. You can go here. Get yourself some merch. Look at that. You know, you can get the Joe Biden blew up the Nord Stream pipeline mug if you want. You know, and a bucket hat, little flippies, white shorts, white hoodie to go with it. You can get the crop hoodie. Look at that. You can be all stylish and whatnot out there. You got it. You know, be out there. That's a look. The white on white look. What is that? Like P. Diddy, 1999. You
Can't
know,
stop, won't stop.
can't stop, won't stop, baby. Anyway, we actually do have to stop. You got things to do probably. But anyway, we appreciate everyone coming. Appreciate you being a member. Look at that. You got your names down there. Right? And it's also telling you to like and subscribe, which you should do. Comment. You know, tell us what you think. Do all that fun stuff. But anyway, as always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent.